Have you ever stopped to think whether you're really in love, or if you're just experiencing a crush? In today's video, we're going to explore the 6 stages everyone goes through when they get deeply involved with someone. Are you just caught up in the excitement of the beginning, or have you already reached true love? I'll share the signs you need to watch for, and how to identify what's really going on in your heart. Stay with us until the end, because you might be surprised by what's behind your feelings. Let's dive in. Having a crush is something almost everyone has experienced, even if they don't use that word to describe it. It's that unique, somewhat magical, and somewhat confusing feeling that mixes butterflies in your stomach, anticipation, and sometimes even a bit of nervousness. It's like suddenly someone takes up a special space in your thoughts, even though you're not quite sure why. All it takes is a glance, a smile, or even a casual conversation to spark something inside of you. The truth is, having a crush is like riding an emotional roller coaster. Your heart races when that person is nearby. You try to hide it, but you can't stop the silly smile when you hear their name. And the most interesting part is that a crush doesn't have to be someone close. It could be a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, or even a celebrity. It could come from a deep connection, or just something simple like finding their mannerisms charming. But what really makes this experience so special is that a crush reminds us of our capacity to feel. It shows us that we're vulnerable and open to new possibilities, even if we don't always know how to handle it. Of course, not every crush leads to something concrete. Many stay in our imagination, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, one of the coolest things about having a crush is that it's the beginning of an emotional learning process. Along the way, we go through several stages. From that initial interest to moments of doubt, idealization, and sometimes the painful acceptance that it won't work out. But no matter how it ends, every crush teaches us something valuable about ourselves, about what we're looking for in others, and how we deal with our emotions. Ready to explore these phases and discover how they can help you understand more about your relationships? Let's go on this journey together. The first stage of a crush is marked by interest. This is when you start noticing someone in a different way, as if something clicked, and suddenly this person stands out from the rest. It's not something you consciously choose, it just happens. It might be a simple interaction, a shared glance, or even something more subtle, like a conversation that flows more easily than usual. This interest can come in many forms. Sometimes it appears instantly, like a sudden impact, something you can't explain but know is real. Other times it's more gradual. For instance, you meet someone by chance, maybe in a group of friends, at work, or even online, and little by little, you find yourself drawn to something specific about them. It might be the way they express themselves, their smile, or even a simple act of kindness that makes them stand out. What makes this stage even more interesting is that, often, the interest goes beyond physical attraction. Sometimes it's about the person's personality, their interest in things you also enjoy, or the way they treat others. It's when you start realizing that something deeper might be developing. This stage can also be pretty confusing, because you're not sure if it's just admiration or something more profound. You start to wonder, is this just friendship, or is there an attraction that goes beyond? If the crush is someone you already know well, like a close friend, this stage can be even more complex. After all, you've already shared moments and experiences together, and now you're starting to feel that there's a different kind of tension, something more intimate, and that can create a mix of emotions. You might even try to rationalize these feelings, but at the same time, it's hard to ignore this new sensation. In any case, interest is the first sign that something is developing. It could just be the beginning of a stronger friendship or the seed of a romantic relationship, and only time will tell which path it will take. But one thing is for sure. This moment marks the start of the emotional journey you're about to experience, whether short or long. After the initial interest comes the stage of curiosity. At this point, you start wanting to know more about the person who caught your attention. The interest is still there, but now it's mixed with a growing desire to understand who they really are. This is when the first questions start popping up in your head. What do they like to do in their free time? Do they have a lifestyle similar to mine? What are their dreams and desires? Curiosity can be both exciting and a bit anxious. You start paying closer attention, noticing every little detail. You might notice something new and interesting in a conversation, or even in a shared glance that you hadn't seen before. Often this leads you to do small investigations. Maybe you search for the person on social media to learn more about their life, their interests, and opinions. This phase is marked by an active search for information, and technology makes it much easier today. You might start to realize that you're subtly but steadily immersing yourself in the other person's world. It's not just about how they present themselves, but also about what they share, whether through posts, photos, or even stories they tell. And as you do this, it's normal to start evaluating whether you're compatible with them. Do they like the same movies I do? Do we have similar views on life? You might even notice yourself starting to care about things you didn't used to, just to find more common ground. This is all part of the emotional exploration process, and it's when you really start to ask yourself if this interest could turn into something bigger. However, there can also be some frustration at this stage, especially if you can't gather as much information as you'd like. This lack of clarity can create a mix of excitement and insecurity because you still don't have a complete picture of the person and the feelings you're developing. This stage is the transition between something that started off more superficial and is starting to take on an emotional shape. And the most interesting part is that curiosity doesn't just make you want to know more about the crush, but also about yourself. You begin reflecting on what you're really looking for in a person, what attracts you and what doesn't, what you can offer and what you expect to receive. This moment of self-discovery is crucial so that, later on, you'll know how to act and which direction to take in the relationship. When curiosity combines with a significant increase in emotions, you enter the infatuation stage. At this point, what started as attraction transforms into a soft obsession, an almost overwhelming euphoria. It's as if the entire universe around you starts revolving around this person. When you begin to experience this stage, the feeling of being in love goes beyond just liking someone. It's as if the world becomes more colorful and vibrant because thoughts of the crush take up almost all your moments. During infatuation, your interactions with the person become the highlight of your days. Every message received, every glance exchanged, every word spoken seems to carry significant weight. Even small interactions like a casual hello or an unexpected smile can make your day, bringing a sense of happiness that seems endless. Life feels lighter, problems seem smaller, and the idea of being near that person makes you feel like you're floating, full of energy and optimism. It's also at this stage that you begin to idealize the crush even more. In many cases, the perfection of this person becomes almost tangible, as if they were the perfect combination of everything you've ever wanted. The charm of the crush is viewed through rose-colored glasses, where their imperfections become invisible or even endearing. You catch yourself thinking that the person couldn't have flaws, or that any potential flaw could be overlooked. This is part of idealization, a common process where you project your own expectations and desires onto the person, failing to see reality clearly. This stage is exciting, but it can also be a bit confusing. On one hand, you feel an inexplicable joy and a desire to be around this person all the time. On the other hand, a sense of uncertainty or anxiety can arise. The desire to please, to win them over, and to ensure they feel the same way can create emotional pressure. The intensity of your feelings might make you worry about not meeting the crush's expectations or even being rejected, even though, often, that's not a real possibility. Infatuation also tends to increase the need for reciprocity. You find yourself constantly wondering if the feelings you're experiencing are shared. You'll start imagining signs, looking for evidence that the person feels the same way, whether in how they act, the words they say, or even in digital interactions. If something seems to click or take time, you'll feel more hopeful, and if not, you might feel frustrated. At this stage, everything feels perfect, and the euphoria is contagious. However, it's also a crucial moment because as the crush becomes the center of your attention, you might start overlooking other important things, like your own needs and the signals within your relationship. Infatuation is often a learning phase where you have the chance to deeply connect with your emotions and desires. During the infatuation stage, the sense of perfection is one of the most intense and captivating experiences. At this point, the feelings are so strong that you start seeing the crush as an idealized version of someone, often ignoring or minimizing their flaws and imperfections. The idea of perfection in the crush becomes almost magical, and everything they do seems wonderful. It's as if they have all the qualities you've ever wanted, whether in how they dress, speak, act, or even think. This idealization is natural and, in a way, an emotional safeguard. When we're in love, we tend to see the other person through rose-colored glasses, which makes us overlook or disregard signs that could be negative, like behaviors or attitudes that, if observed more clearly, might indicate incompatibility. However, this feeling of perfection is not exclusive to the crush. It's also connected to how infatuation makes you feel about yourself. When you idealize the other person, you also start to believe that if you win them over, you'll be validated in some way. Having a perfect crush can make you feel special, as if your life is more exciting and full of possibilities. Every message, every meeting, every conversation reinforces the idea that this person is extraordinary, and that sense of perfection is fueled by the intense emotions that infatuation triggers. While this phase is exciting, it can also be risky. Excessive idealization can lead to a false perception that the crush is flawless, which can eventually result in disappointments. If the relationship evolves into something more serious, reality begins to set in. Small details or behaviors that you initially ignored may start to stand out more clearly. The perfection you imagined may be challenged, and what seemed like a fairy tale might begin to turn into something more complex and real. But the sense of perfection is, most of the time, a normal part of the emotional experience of love. It creates the magic that makes the beginning of a relationship so thrilling and unforgettable. It's just important to remember that over time, true connection is built when both sides can see the imperfections and still choose to be together, accepting and loving each other as they really are. And that's a process that only happens when idealization starts giving way to the reality of a genuine relationship. When the infatuation stage begins to stabilize, you enter the sharing stage. At this point, your feelings are clearer, and the intense euphoria starts to turn into something more solid. The attraction is no longer just an emotional and fleeting impulse, but something you want to share with others. The crush has stopped being just an internal fantasy and has become part of your social reality. This is the moment when you start talking about the person with your closest friends, or even with your family. The need to share what's happening to you intensifies. Sometimes you just want to talk about the moments you've experienced with the crush, like an interesting conversation, a glance exchanged, or a particularly enjoyable meeting. Other times you seek advice and opinions on how to act, what to do, and what not to do. At this point, you begin to open up about what's happening inside you and seek external feedback to better understand your feelings. This sharing isn't just about telling the good stories. Often it's also about venting. If you're feeling insecure, anxious, or even confused, your friends and family become your support system. You ask for their honest opinions about what you think might be going on with the crush. Do you think they're interested too? Or should I give them more space or try to get closer? Here, you're seeking answers not only to understand the crush, but also to understand yourself and the dynamics of this new relationship. Additionally, in this stage, you start to see if this attraction goes beyond something superficial. You want the people closest to you to meet this person who has won your heart, and so you begin introducing them into your social circle. The crush stops being a secret passion and becomes something you want others to recognize and approve of. This can be a way to test your compatibility, not just emotionally, but also socially. How do they behave around your friends? How do your friends react to them? How do you react when they're around? These interactions help evaluate whether this relationship has a future. At the same time, you may start to notice the important role friends play in this stage. They help analyze the relationship more objectively, shedding light on aspects you might be overlooking. Sometimes, a close friend's perspective can reveal something important you haven't noticed, whether it's a detail that doesn't match the idealized image of the crush, or a sign that this relationship might not be as healthy as it seems. So, sharing isn't just about expressing your emotions, but also about receiving support and external perspectives. This helps provide a more balanced view of what's happening and prepares the ground for the next stages of this emotional process. Friends play a crucial role in the sharing stage because they offer an external, more objective perspective on the situation. While you are immersed in the intense feelings and emotions of having a crush, it's natural for an outsider's view to help you see things from a new angle. Often, when we're in love or infatuated, emotions can cloud our judgment, and friends can act as an emotional thermometer, helping to assess the relationship's viability with more clarity. One important role friends play is offering emotional support. They're the listeners who welcome your doubts and fears about the crush. You may want to vent about a meeting that didn't go as expected, or about something the crush said that made you insecure. In these moments, friends are essential to providing support, easing anxiety, and helping you process your emotions. This support can be vital, especially in times of doubt or insecurity. Another crucial role of friends is helping to identify flaws that may be hard to notice. When we're in love, we tend to see our crush through a lens of perfection, which makes us ignore or minimize their flaws. This is where friends step in, often with a more rational perspective, to point out aspects that may be problematic or over time could affect the relationship. For example, your crush may have habits or behaviors that don't align with your own values, or that might prove toxic later on. More often than not, it's friends who help spot these signs before they become big issues. Additionally, friends can be a huge help when reflecting on the relationship's viability. No matter how strong the attraction, they can assist you in assessing whether the relationship has the potential to grow in a healthy way, or if it's just a passing infatuation. They can help you consider deeper compatibility aspects, such as values, life goals, and communication styles. For instance, you might fall for someone who has very different interests from yours or who, over time, proves to have an incompatible lifestyle. In such moments, friends play a key role in helping you see things from a more balanced and realistic perspective. In some cases, friends can even influence the development of the relationship. Their opinions may be so strong that, depending on what they think of your crush, they could affect how you handle the situation. If your friends disapprove of your crush or point out red flags, it might make you reconsider the relationship. On the other hand, if they approve and support you, it can boost your confidence in moving forward. However, it's important to remember that, despite the support and advice from friends, the final decision should be yours. The role of friends is to guide and offer perspectives, but the choice of how to act in the relationship is entirely up to you. Balancing listening to your friends' advice with trusting your own feelings and judgment is essential to navigating this stage with more wisdom and authenticity. When you reach the stage of falling in love, the emotional intensity of the previous stage starts to transform into a deeper, more genuine connection. The idealization of the crush begins to fade, making way for reality. At this point, the relationship shifts from the realm of fantasy to being built on more real and genuine foundations. The most noticeable difference at this stage is that infatuation and idealization give way to a more mature love. Instead of seeing the other person as perfect, you begin to see both their qualities and flaws, and this doesn't diminish your affection. In fact, what really strengthens is acceptance. You start to realize that no one is perfect, but this is someone you want to share your life with, flaws and all. True love doesn't require perfection, and at this stage, you are willing to accept the other person as they are, with all their quirks. This process of acceptance is what differentiates liking from real love. In the previous stage, you might have been enchanted by the idea of your crush, but now, as you fall in love, you learn to appreciate the deeper aspects of the person, even those that may have been invisible at first. The relationship becomes based on emotional connection, where both of you share genuine feelings and begin to build a relationship of trust and mutual respect. In the falling in love stage, you also start letting go of the idealized version and see your crush as a real person, with both strengths and weaknesses. This can be a big relief because, as you stop viewing the other person through rose-colored glasses, you get closer to a more genuine relationship. For example, as you spend more time with them, you start noticing how they react in different situations, how they handle stress, interact with others, or deal with challenges. You realize that, like any human being, your crush has their weaknesses. The beauty of this is that, at the same time, you feel more comfortable showing your own flaws, creating a more balanced and authentic connection. Moreover, in this stage, feelings become more reciprocal. It's no longer a one-sided relationship. Both of you are emotionally invested. When feelings are mutual, you experience a sense of belonging and partnership. There's a shared desire to build something together, whether it's a more serious romantic relationship or an even deeper friendship. This stage is marked by companionship and the desire to grow together. Trust is another important aspect at this stage. As you fall in love, you begin to trust the other person more and believe in the potential of the relationship. At the same time, this trust also brings more vulnerability because you start opening up and showing who you really are, without masks or defenses. This doesn't mean there aren't uncertainties or fears, but it's the willingness to face these issues together, building a solid foundation of support and mutual understanding. This stage is also a moment of emotional commitment. As you fall in love, you are increasingly investing in the relationship, thinking about the future and the possibilities this connection can bring. The time and energy dedicated to the person are clear signs that you want the relationship to grow and develop. In the end, the falling in love stage is about building a genuine relationship where the connection goes beyond physical attraction or initial excitement and transforms into something deeper and sustainable. This is the moment when the relationship has the potential to become more serious, but also when you really start getting to know each other in a richer and more genuine way. The transition from liking to loving is one of the most important and meaningful in any relationship. It may be subtle, but as you dive deeper into your feelings, it's impossible not to notice the differences between these two types of affection. In the liking stage, feelings can be strong and intense, but they're still based on a more superficial attraction and often an idealized view of the other person. In the loving stage, there's a profound and fundamental shift in how you see the person and the type of bond you share. When you like someone, you're attracted to them. It might be their appearance, shared interests, or the way they make you feel. The attraction is intense, but often stays on an emotional surface level, like a passing crush or physical attraction. You enjoy being around this person because they make you feel good in an immediate way, but the feelings aren't necessarily tied to a deep, complex view of the relationship. Liking is also more about wanting someone by your side, and you may be more focused on how the person makes you feel. This stage can be characterized by a still somewhat idealized relationship, where you don't necessarily know all the layers of the other person, but you're charmed by the ones you've seen. On the other hand, loving is much more than liking. Love is a deeper, longer-lasting experience that goes beyond short-term emotions or initial attraction. When you love someone, you begin to see the person as a whole, accepting their flaws and imperfections. In love, there's no longer that idealized view of the other person. You see their defects, their vulnerabilities, and even their fears, and still choose to be with them. Love involves a higher level of commitment and dedication, where the focus shifts from yourself to the well-being and needs of the other person. Additionally, love is characterized by mutual acceptance and respect. When you love someone, you want to see that person grow and evolve, and you're willing to support their choices, even if they don't involve you directly. You're more likely to make sacrifices for the other person because love involves a deep emotional bond based on trust, respect, and partnership. Loving someone means wanting the best for them, even if that sometimes means letting go of something for their sake. Another important point is that liking someone is more connected to a relationship that is more fickle and dependent on circumstances, like physical attraction or the pleasure of being in the person's company. Love, on the other hand, transcends these circumstances. It remains even in difficult times, when the relationship is challenged by obstacles, distance, or differences. True love is resilient. It adapts, grows, and often strengthens in times of adversity. In summary, liking someone is the first step in a relationship where you're discovering the person and falling for the idea of who they are. Loving someone, however, is the deeper and ongoing process where you truly get to know the person, choose to love them with all their imperfections, and commit to them long-term. The transition from liking to loving is not always obvious, but when it happens, it's a sign that the relationship has transformed into something more serious and meaningful. The stage of falling out of love happens when the intense feelings of passion start to fade, often due to lack of reciprocity, incompatibility, or the realization that the relationship isn't progressing as expected. This process can be gradual or abrupt, and it can be painful, especially if the love is unreturned or if the partner's imperfections become more apparent. However, falling out of love is a natural part of the emotional journey and can be an opportunity for self-discovery, helping you better understand what you need in a relationship. Despite the pain, it's an important step to move forward and prepare for healthier relationships in the future. The reasons for falling out of love vary, but the main ones include lack of reciprocity, when love is not returned, incompatibility of values and interests, changes in the partner's behavior, and lack of communication or trust. Also, excessive idealization of the partner can lead to disillusionment, and personal or circumstantial issues can cause emotional distancing. A lack of effort in the relationship is also a common factor, leading to frustration and detachment. In any case, falling out of love is a natural part of the emotional process and can make space for self-discovery and new relationships. The stage of falling out of love, although painful, offers a chance for self-discovery and emotional growth. The pain of the end of a crush or relationship can lead to reflection on what you really want and need, helping you identify patterns and unrealistic expectations. This learning process allows you to become more aware of your own needs and more prepared for future healthy relationships. It's also an opportunity to rediscover yourself outside of the relationship, reconnecting with your own interests and passions. Healing isn't just about overcoming the pain, but also evolving and becoming more confident for new love experiences. In the end, it's essential to reflect on the emotional journey of a crush and falling out of love. Each stage brings important lessons about you and what you expect from a relationship. Identifying where you are helps you understand your feelings and make more conscious decisions. Sharing your experiences with friends or a therapist can bring relief and new perspectives. The lessons learned throughout this process are valuable, helping to build healthier relationships in the future. The important thing is to use these lessons to look forward with optimism, knowing that you are more prepared for true love. So, what do you think, guys? Each stage of a crush is a unique experience, and I'd love to know which stage you're in or have already passed. Leave your comments down below, share your experiences, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any content about relationships and everything that involves our feelings. See you next time, and remember, love and self-awareness are always evolving.